Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Boruto Chapter 62 review. Alright guys, I am still recovering from Boruto episode 216, so please bear with me for a second. But regardless, this chapter right here had some definite plot progression. This chapter right here had some definite entertaining scenes, and obviously the biggest thing is going to be the upcoming fight in the next chapter. I'm not gonna lie, this chapter right here honestly kind of feels like a hype chapter for the next chapter, but even still, this chapter was still very good, and I can't really wait for the next chapter. But regardless, let's get into exactly what happens. The big thing on the list is going to be why Kawaki left the Hidden Leaf Village. Supposedly he wanted to sacrifice himself to save the village. This right here was perplexing. This right here was confusing. This right here made my stomach turn when I actually did see this in the spoils, to be honest. But I do want to say Kawaki was being extremely brave in this situation. Obviously, we understand the character development from Kawaki. He is actually willing to die for the village. But now the overall question is going to be, was this decision stupid? I think off of the rip, a lot of us are going to say yes, even me. Like, let's keep it G. Like, this decision right here wasn't necessarily smart at all. We understand that Code wants something more than just revenge, but Kawaki didn't necessarily know that. This is something that I had to sit down and actually think about for myself. Like, Kawaki didn't necessarily have the privilege of reading the other chapters where Code did actually state what he wanted to do. So in Kawaki's mind, he might have actually thought that all Code wanted was revenge, but it turns out that that right there was not the case. Kawaki is not out of the woods yet. What was made clear previously and what was made clear in this particular chapter right here is that Code wants to carry out the Otsutsuki will. Code himself wants to become the Otsutsuki god. Now, I talked about this in a previous video. This right here in itself is very questionable, mainly because Code right now is not an Otsutsuki. So how can he even become an Otsutsuki god if he doesn't necessarily have any Otsutsuki DNA in him, similar to like how Kawaki and Boruto themselves are part Otsutsuki. Code is just a regular human or a regular cyborg. I'm pretty sure that they are going to explain that in a later chapter, but as of right now, that right there is still confusing. So the overall question is, was this really a stupid decision for Kawaki? I'm gonna say for him, no. But for all of us that actually did read the Boruto manga and knows exactly what Code wants to do, this right here is extremely frustrating. I'm just going to put it like that. But regardless, I do want to talk about how dominant Code was in this chapter right here. This guy right here was absolutely different. I mean, we understood coming to this battle, Kawaki had absolutely no chance in regards to beating the character like Code, but we didn't necessarily understand how good his taijutsu was prior to this chapter. One of the things that was on full display when Code was actually fighting was just his abilities. We couldn't necessarily compare and contrast his taijutsu abilities with any taijutsu abilities that we do know personally. So for example, he was fighting against a bunch of guards. Those guards themselves might have, like, I don't know, academy student level taijutsu. So now in a battle like this, where we already know Kawaki is already established, his hands are absolutely legit, and for Code to just do Kawaki like that, man, that right there looks absolutely bad. And this right here isn't necessarily just huge for Code. This right here is also huge for the other cyborgs in the Kata organization, or the new cyborgs in the new Kata organization, I should say, Ida and Damon, because as of right now, we know their abilities, but we don't necessarily know the basis. How strong are they? How fast are they? How good is their technique? So as of right now, I wouldn't necessarily be too surprised if their taijutsu itself is on the level of a Code, or even past the level of Code, possibly a level of like a final form Momoshiki or something like that, which would be absolutely insane. Now, I just want to dive a little bit deeper into Code's actual plan so we can all be kind of on the same page. And not only that, I definitely do have to ask you guys a couple of questions, mainly because this right here is extremely confusing to me. So as of right now, Code wants to take Kawaki back to Ida so they could pretty much date or whatever, and then kidnap Boruto and then feed him to the 10 tails, and then create a god tree, which then of course Code would eat the chakra fruit that comes from that god tree. But in this chapter right here, Code actually said that the people of the Hidden Leaf Village would actually die because of this god tree, which confused me, mainly because there's multiple statements in the Boruto series, or not just the Boruto series, the Naruto series in general, that pretty much says it takes a very long time for the god tree to become complete and actually bear the fullest chakra fruit. Because of that, it probably wouldn't necessarily mean that the people of the Hidden Leaf Village right now would die to that god tree. Probably like generations after that would die to that god tree, and then he'd be able to feed on that. I don't know, maybe they're gonna shorten the lifespan of how long it takes for the god tree to actually fully complete. If that's the case, I wouldn't necessarily be too surprised, man, because the way that they're talking right now, it's looking like it's probably gonna take, I don't know, like 3 to 5 years or something like that. But from what we have seen already, it takes about like 1,000 years or something like that. The MVP of this episode, though, hands down has to be my man's Boruto. Boruto took all of the initiative in this episode. I think one of the biggest things that he did do in this chapter was tell Naruto what was going on. There is so many times into the Boruto series, not just Boruto, when Naruto was a kid as well, when they just do not tell their elders exactly what's going on, and a lot of the problems could possibly be mitigated with telling other people and also relying on the other people for help. Naruto now knows exactly what's going on with Kawaki. Well, not necessarily exactly what's going on with Kawaki. He knows what Boruto knows, but that right there isn't necessarily all that my man's Boruto did. He gave everybody the intel and also found Kawaki. Now this right here is a very interesting thing for multiple reasons. Obviously the first one is going to be the fact that Kawaki isn't necessarily going to be that much of a sitting duck against a character like Code. We seen in this chapter literally Code was about to take Kawaki, and because of Boruto, Kawaki can now buy a little bit more time. But also on top of that, this right here is extremely important, man, because Boruto is using his chakra, which means that the people of the Hidden Leaf Village can actually track down Boruto's chakra. Not only the people of the Hidden Leaf Village, potentially even a character like Sasuke can sense Boruto's chakra and figure out exactly where he is. One of the things that we've pretty much all been waiting for and extremely excited for is a potential Code versus Sasuke battle, or even a potential Naruto and Sasuke versus Code battle. We all think that that right there would probably be a very good one, even though we understand that it probably wouldn't necessarily be an overwhelming favorite for Naruto and Sasuke to win that battle, which is what I think a lot of people would want. We don't necessarily want just a regular bland battle where we know that Naruto and Sasuke are gonna win. But regardless, Boruto doing that move is not necessarily listening to Naruto and going out and finding Kawaki on his own, taking initiative. That right there was absolutely huge. Again, Boruto is definitely the MVP of this chapter right here. Now, not only that, Boruto and Kawaki gaining Otsutsuki abilities completely out of nowhere, completely out of thin air. This right here is very interesting. It probably is not going to be the last time. I wouldn't necessarily be too surprised if, like, in a couple of chapters, Boruto now gains the ability to fly and Kawaki now gains the ability to fly. Now they're just both, even Kawaki without the karma seal is going from dimension to dimension. All of a sudden they now have absolutely huge chakra reserves, things like that. That right there just would not surprise me at all, just because we've already seen them gain Otsutsuki abilities completely out of thin air. In the last two chapters, the two abilities that we did see Kawaki and Boruto gain was Kawaki getting the ability to completely mask his chakra, and Boruto getting the ability to actually sense exactly where Kawaki is while he's actually masking his chakra. But regardless, this chapter right here was definitely a good one. I think the next one is going to be even better, and I'm probably even going to go out on a limb. The next chapter might even be another hype chapter for the next chapter. I think in the next chapter we're probably going to get to see Sasuke or even Naruto or some other Jonis pull up on that battle to actually assist Boruto and Kawaki against Code, because obviously Boruto and Kawaki aren't necessarily going to be strong enough to take down Code. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comment section below. And the biggest question I do have to ask you guys, was it a stupid decision for Kawaki to do what he actually did? But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.